Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
everybody! Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Drummers Education Connection Deck 50th episode with Gene Hoglan. Woohoo! We are
Awesome.
So grateful to be here after a full year of episodes. I think we've only mixed 2 episodes in 1 year. So for our 1-year anniversary, we wanted to bring in the atomic clock, the champion. I'm here with my partners in crime here, the amazing Chip Ritter, who started D.E.C out in Arizona. We've got Jeremy Steinkohler up in the Bay Area and Bart Robley down in Fullerton in Southern California. And you guys know me. Gene and I are down here in San Diego. We rehearse here in the same studios. And Gene, thanks for coming on the show, man. What an honor to have you here.
Well,
man.
Rick, thank you for having me. The honor is mine. Congratulations, gentlemen, on a full year. Hell yeah, man! You guys are doing great work around here, and I know everybody's excited about D.E.C. And just congratulations, you guys.
Man.
Totally.
Thank you so much, Gene. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that, man. Thank you.
Man, we appreciate the support. So if you do a Google search for heavy metal living legend drummer, Gene is going to pop up.
Man, living legend metal drummer.
Living
Crazy.
legend metal drummer. And man, I'm telling you, it is so well earned. So Gene, currently his project, biggest project or main project right now is Testament.
That's one of the main focuses.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Main focus. You've also played with Dethklok,
Darn tootin'.
Fear Factory,
To a degree.
for a little while, right? Death, Dark Angel.
Now we're talking.
Yep. These are your root bands that really put you on the map.
Absolutely.
Back in the day.
Yeah,
Yep. Gene is just a pioneer and in extreme metal drumming. You've got your own blast beat named after you, which is really fun.
I do. Yeah.
You're a top clinician. You ask any metal drummer who the number one drummer is in that field, and they're going to say Gene Hoglan. It's just,
That is
just hands down. And so, Gene, what I've always found like so amazing about your drumming is the flow and the groove to it. And when you think heavy metal drumming, you think fast double bass. But I look at your influences. And they're, tell us about them, because they're more funk and soul and fusion.
Well, I gotta mention, my favorite drummer, I've mentioned this all the time. My favorite drummer is Stevie Wonder. I love his approach, and a lot of people are kind of surprised. Like, I didn't even know he played drums. I'm like, boy, if a lot of your favorite Stevie Wonder songs have him on drums. And so just, I really think Stevie Wonder is from Mars, and his approach to drumming is quite Martian as well. He'll pull out fills and licks that no other drummer is going to even think about. And that's kind of why I know he grew up in the Motown, in the at Pittsville, USA kind of thing. He grew up there. And I have a feeling that a lot of times, like when he's trying to explain, like, I need this kind of feel over here, I think a lot of the drummers are like, I'm trying to pick up what you're laying down. However, I don't know if I can pull off exactly what you're talking about. And Stevie, I just think he's like, give me those sticks. Let me do it myself. That's what I feel like. Maybe he did. I could be totally wrong. But, you got guys like Stevie Wonder. And I grew up listening to, obviously, I'm a Kiss baby, so Peter Criss was my first guy, my first foray into rock drumming. And then I got into like guys like Neil Peart, Terry Bozzio, Sonny Emery, Mark Craney, from the Gino Vanelli's Brother to Brother record. Holy moly, what a great drum album that is. So I tried to, I guess before I was heavy metal, I was really into prog rock and classic rock and things like that. So there's just so many amazing drummers obviously out there. And so I just feel like if it doesn't matter who the drummer is, I think I took an influence from him. I even get influenced by bad drummers, like do what the good guys
like
do.
me. No.
No, man,
Nah,
Not
don't do what
even,
the bad
man.
guys do. So, there you go.
And Gene, is it correct that you're self-taught? You never studied with a teacher?
Yeah, that is correct. I got lessons on a daily basis from my record player. You know, like
There you go.
that is how I taught myself. You know, by starting off with like a Kiss. You know, I was no drummer at the time. I was an air drummer for 5 years before I ever got my kit, and I'm a gigantic proponent of air drumming, you know, and I realize I'm around a bunch of teachers here, but that's how I was giving myself little lessons, you know, like breaking down a Rush song, for instance, and, you know, just I'm checking out what the kicks are doing, checking out what the hands are doing. Neil Peart is a very gettable drummer. You know, he sounds really technical, but you could understand what he's doing. You could listen to it and understand that fill, you know, the Neil Peart kind of fill. So I would just be breaking down these little parts and just learning them as I went. And by the time I sat on a drum kit for the first time, I was a little bit. I wasn't just doing that music store pounding, you know, ding ding. You know, I was actually able to navigate my way around a kit the first time. So that was really, it was very, you know, it was very exciting to. Hey, I'm sitting behind a kit for the first time and I'm not too shabby, you know, so it just kind of moved forward from there. There you go.
And Gene, you have this sort of rhythmic memory, you know, like some, you know, like a vocalist, you might say that person has perfect pitch, but I've seen you just any random song, you'll air drum it and you'll have the part just right. And I know you know, we've been brother-in-laws for about 14 years now.
Yeah.
And I've seen you do a million different projects with these massive like albums to learn or sets to learn, and you just listen to it and you've got it memorized. So was this like a tool? Like, was it a muscle that you evolved, or you know, how do you do it, man?
That is a great question, Rick. Well, I guess it's. I've always preached this, that especially for me, drums are 90% mental, 10% physical. You know, if you could think it, and if you can imagine what's going on here, and you know, it's just been an approach that I've taken since I was a kid. Since I never like learned how to read. I have a very rudimentary, you know, just above musical illiteracy. You know, knowledge of how to read, but that's just the way I guess I do approach music and learning parts from kind of an illiterate style of memorization. You know, I'll listen to something a few times to get it together, but I've also been told that, like, the approach that I've always taken is like, you know, just imagine myself on the kit. You know, I'm like, say if I'm learning a song, got my eyes closed, I'm just sitting here, usually lying on my bed, just tapping away like this and imagining the kit. You know, I hear the fill and I just imagine it. And I've been told recently that is called visualization. And I had no idea I was doing any of that, but it's really easy for me to just kind of, you know, imagine the kit there. I hear what the drummer's doing or whatever the programming is that I need to learn, whatever it is. Or if it's just, say, straight tracks, you know, there's no drums or anything, I'll just create stuff and just imagine it. If I can imagine it, I can play it the next day, kind of thing, when I'm on the kit, that kind of thing. So I guess I've had a relative aptitude for that sort of approach, and it's really worked well for me. So that's why, for me, and I will tell young drummers this: if you don't know how to read, if you don't have a drums kit, all is not lost. You know, you can still get the job done, but you might have to take a left-handed approach towards things. But it's worked out pretty good for me, so I'll stick with it totally.
The other thing I noticed too is you. Well, I know you play guitar and bass. That's right. We do family jams and family parties, and Gene gets on bass, and man, he is the best bass player.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh my God, it's so fun. But when I hear you check you out, watch, trying to practice and get ready for a set that you have to drum on, I see you air guitar.
Sure.
Or pick up a guitar. And so you really, really are aware of what's going on musically.
That's one thing that I will do. Like there's a lot of times in order to converse with my other musicians in my bands, when I was a kid, I thought, well, why not learn how to play their instruments as well, so you can converse on something more than just like, hey man, play this riff. It goes like da 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 da. Rather than having to mouth air mouth a riff to somebody. It's just, just pick up the guitar and here's what I'm talking about here. Just this is what I'm talking, and they'll be like, okay, I got you. And I think it works out in a productive way than trying to kind of do what Lars Ulrich does with James Hetfield, like sing some riffs to him. And I always notice that guitarists, sometimes they'll take that riff that you're trying to hum to them and they'll augment it in their way. And there's sometimes when that's a good thing, but sometimes you're like, wait, hey, here's exactly what we need to be hearing right here. So that's why becoming a multi-instrumentalist, I think is a very helpful tool in order to converse with any other musicians you might have. So now I'm just going to have to start learning the hurdy-gurdy and the ocarina. Rocks there.
Hey, I got a question for you, Gene. I know you play primarily open-handed. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Now, did that come from like being self-taught? Did you not see somebody play, closed-handed, or did you just like, this was natural, and then it opened up that whole world for you? Was it by mistake, and it was a great, it was great that way, or how did that come to be?
It was very coincidental. It was coincidental to where my record player was placed in my bedroom when I was growing up being an air drummer. Awesome. Yeah, it's like I would sit on the bed right here. Like here's the top part of my bed right here. There's my record player right there. So I'd be having my legs kicking over the bed on this side, and I just kind of turned here. And if you notice, like the top corner of a bed is going to be kind of tight and high sound. In the as you go towards the middle, that's kind of your lower register kind of stuff. So it's like, oh well, I guess here's kind of my kick drum. Got to do it with my left hand. Play the snare on the top corner of the bed, that kind of thing. So that is really how it evolved. And I got told so much when I was a kid by all the proper drummers at school and the drum teachers at school. I never got to take drums in school. I never got to do that, but I would know all the drummers that would, and the teachers and stuff like that. And they would all tell me, you can't do this. You can't. You have to cross over. And, I being like 12 or 13 or whatever, I'm like, why do I have to do anything? This is kind of how I'm already doing it. Why do I have to do this? So, and I was just an angry young little kid. You're like, F you people. I'm not going to do anything you tell me. And then there was a drummer in Los Angeles. I started going to the clubs when I was 13 years old. Yeah. I didn't look 13, and back then they didn't ID you at the front like they do now. So I could go to all the clubs with my older sister Lisa, and I got to know a lot of drummers, a lot of musicians, and my favorite drummer in Los Angeles was a guy named Brian O'Brien from a band called A La Carte. And A La Carte used to headline over Van Halen back in the day. They played Fullerton many a time there. Yeah. And they're from the 70s and 80s. I started seeing them in 1981, and then around 1982 or 3 or so, I become friends with their drummer, again, Brian O'Brien. The man's so nice they named him twice. Yeah, and I got him to come over to my house and just jam on my kit. And everybody had already told me, you are wrong for open-handed. But at the time I had a little 5-piece Slingerland kit, and he sat down on my kit, and my kit was primarily a lot of cymbals on this side. This was kind of open because I was 14 or 15. I didn't have a giant kit or anything. And he was the first guy that came to me and said, this is great. You know, playing open-handed, you can have a mountain of cymbals over here. You can have a mountain of drums over here. Whatever you're doing okay at it. Stick with it. You're okay doing this. He was the first guy to tell me when I was, an adolescent that you're all right. You're not a monster, so that was very inspiring to me. And so I just kind of, that was all I needed to hear. So
that's fantastic.
Okay.
Chip,
guys,
go ahead.
Real quick. I just want to give a good shout out to our friends who are watching live right now. Josh Posey, Kathleen Smoller-Smith's in the house. Josh said he's seen Gene attempt a song he doesn't know well on his Twitch stream, and he always picks it up quick. And then Jacob Sosa said, hey, gents, and Jim Royal's in the house. So, hi, everybody. Thanks for watching Gene Hoglan.
We got a good audience on YouTube today, too, which is really nice. So this is fantastic. One of the things on the open-handed thing, I had a buddy of mine come over to my house one time, and he's a great drummer. And he said something about playing open-handed, and I knew how to play "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. Right, that was my extent to, that's my extent to open-handed drumming.
Great drum.
My buddy is a great drummer, and he says to me, he goes, I want to go through Mel Bay's cookbook open-handed. Well, I'm thinking, I'm a drum teacher. I could do it, Dude, it took me like a week to get through one groove and make it sound musical. My hat's off to you, Gene. I mean, I've watched you play, and you cover so much stuff with your right hand while you're holding down a groove. No wonder you're such an inspiration and such a great clinician, because your way of thinking is so musical, and also just your parts, I think, are really musical because of that. Just getting those voicings within a groove, it's outstanding, man. And Rick's right. You do flow fantastic in there. Is there a lot of stuff like that you practice, even though you don't read and stuff? But is there things that you sit down and like, I'm going to actively practice this so I can use it in a tune or something like that?
I admit I don't get too much time to actively practice, but there are times like I've got a project that's probably going to be coming out next year at some point, and it's a pretty exciting project. But Rick was here as I was applying. Since the project offered me charts, like, hey man, we got charts for all this programming we've done, and I'm like, well, that's great, but don't waste the paper. I have about 10 months to get this material down. Well, at the time it was going to be about 6 months, but then the pandemic hit, so things had to get kind of paused out for a while. So I just took that entire 10 months and just woodshedded on those parts. But that is kind of the best way for me. Is like I will take the actual part, work things out, but there's not a lot of times I'll do that in my head at night. Like here's what I'm going to go in tomorrow. I'm going to play this song that I'm currently listening to. I'm going to burn this thing into my brain, and I'll work out the parts in my head the night before, kind of thing. And then that's where the 90% mental comes in. And then it's just a matter of getting down there, remembering what you came up with last night at 3 a.m. kind of thing, and then just applying it right there. You're like, okay, it's real quick. It kind of condenses your woodshedding time. You spend a little bit of time back in the hotel the night before you go track. I'm frequently when I got to track a project, I'll track the songs I do that day. Then at the hotel that night, I'll go review the songs for tomorrow, put the things in my head that I'm going to be doing. And when it comes time to, okay, here's time for that fill right here. You already got it worked out in your head. Babbity boopity bap. Okay, it went really quick. It doesn't take a lot of time. Like, oh man, I got to figure this thing out. It's kind of done pretty quickly. So that is where I find that having this open-handed approach and working out stuff in your head, you do get a large canvas with which to work on. And that's another thing when it comes to playing powerful and all that. I got pretty strong wrists, but I'm fortunate since I don't cross over, I've got a lot of power when it comes to this kind of thing. You
Right.
know, I'm not tethered by, I got this much room, you know, and so I'm able to keep my hi-hats pretty darn low. It's challenging. Like I know Rick sat on my kit a number of times, and I'm sure it's challenging for a crossing over drummer to play hi-hats so low, because they're, you know, about this kind of, they're pretty darn low, right above the knee, kind of. So I've having this approach, it just gives you a very, like I say, a very wide canvas with which to work. And there have been times, like, I'm ambidextrous, and I think all drummers are ambidextrous. You know, sometimes people are like, wow, how does ambidexterity play into being a drummer? Well, it allows me to play open-handed, but I can do a lot of stuff with the right hand as well. It's one of those things, like, if you learn something your natural way, my natural way being open-handed, it's like you probably should figure it out right-handed as well, just to have it in your mental stock of yes, I can do this. Because there's been times when I've been on the road when I've woken up and my arm is dead. I pinched a nerve overnight. This left arm is dead for 2 weeks. It's asleep. So it's like,
wow.
Well, you better figure out a way to get this done. You know, playing hardcore thrash metal, so you better figure out this kind of thing, as opposed to, you know, my arm was just flopping. I couldn't do it. Was asleep, you know. So that's happened on you know, a couple of occasions where it happens. So you better be prepared. That's all. You know, the gig's got to go on, show's got to go on, and if you're missing an appendage, figure it out, dude.
There's no doubt that hi-hat low saves you energy.
It does,
because you don't have this kind of thing. So you're just your arms are just relaxed. So you're just right down there.
I utilize that absolutely.
There's an ergonomical benefit to playing open-handed. You know, my understanding, I think I was told this, I can't remember who it was, only some famous jazz drummer I had a lesson with was telling me about when the hi-hat was first invented. Remember, it started out on the ground as a low boy, right? And then when it was raised up on a pole, all of a sudden you could play it with your hands as well. And it would have made much more sense to play. I mean, frankly, I think just from a whatever 20,000 feet perspective, it makes much more sense to play with the left hand on the left side, right hand on the right side. But drummers didn't want to have to relearn all the patterns they knew with the right hand lead, so they just crossed it over because they were kind of lazy or just didn't want to have to redo it. So, you know, I think there's a lot. I can't play open-handed, but I'm always in awe of the drummers who can. And
well, that's fun.
Yeah. Kathy Smoller-Smith, one of our frequent contributors and guests, she says, I think it's amazing that you don't have to physically practice. I can understand a pattern in my head, but then my hands don't do it. I think a lot of us share that kind of experience where, like, you know, it's one thing to know what you're supposed to try to do, but then physically doing it takes a lot of time to get that neural connection thing going. But it just seems to make sense to you. Yeah. It
does. Yeah. And that's where I will give myself every advantage that I can by, like I say, I do more drum practicing like this, you know, than I do anything else. And my wife Laura tells me that she's like, I've never seen somebody do with their toes what you can do. Because I thought everybody could do this. Like, I got my toes just and that my toe speed is a
Hey, wait, hold on. Did they make a special pedal for your toes? I mean, is this something that I haven't heard of yet?
I know, right? Little triggers, like little maracas or whatever that could be, little timbales or whatever.
Oh my God.
But I guess my that toe speed is a good barometer for if my toes can do this, your feet can do it on pedals. You know, if I try like, oh, here's a really fast double bass part I'm having to learn, you know, I can if I can get my toes going that fast, my feet can do it. By the same token, with my fingers here doing this, you know, if I can get my fingers going to the same tempo as the thing, your wrists, your hands, your fingers are going to be able to do it when you got sticks in your hands. So it's kind of a multi-tiered process of, you know, just self-encouragement, I guess. So that's pretty good.
Well, you're still working out the brain part, right? Because when you're learning the music, even if you're just tapping on your chest, you're working all the neural connections between your brain and your hands. And even if you don't have the sticks in your hand, you're sort of imprinting the patterns on some level.
Imprinting is a great word. Absolutely. That is precisely what I do. And you're imprinting arrangements and,
Right.
you know, in the general rock field, arrangements are, relatively standard. Some of them deviate when you start going into a crazy middle part jam or whatever. But if I'm doing some relatively standard parts, the arrangements are pretty simple to a degree. You're imprinting arrangements, and that in the one approach I love is like Neil Peart's approach to fills before a chorus. If you ever notice, I don't know how many Rush fans are here, but in the old days, Neil's initial chorus, the first chorus, has a really tight little crisp fill. Second chorus builds that up a little bit. Yeah. Third chorus, last chorus, he brings out the big guns on all of it. And that's always been a great approach. Don't just, throw it all against the wall in the first one, because you got nowhere to move after that. And if you're trying to serve the song by elevating the, towards the end kind of thing. I think that's a pretty decent approach.
That's fantastic. Great thought. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Gene, that toe thing you were talking about, when I've, basically taken lessons with you from you on double kick.
Oh yeah. Sure.
And you've talked about bringing in the toes.
Yeah.
That never ever even in my wildest dream occurred to me that I could bring in my toes into it. And I'm working on it all the time, man. Cool. And it helps. It really does. I think it balances out your foot.
That's awesome. And it gives, it's like if you have a meat fist that doesn't have fingers, then you're not going to be able to do too much with it. You got a meat pod down there that has extra appendage. Utilize them somehow. I'm digging in my toes when I play, and there's times when I'm when you're leaning into something, you're doing that slap on the kick. But you got your toes all working in unison, in conjoinment with the rest of your meat flap down there. So utilize all the effort you can from all your appendages, and you're throwing 100% of yourself at the actual drums themselves. So I think it's a helpful thing. Totally.
Everybody, I don't know if we didn't get to mention these, but Gene does have 2 educational DVDs out, The Atomic Clock.
Education.
Do you use terms like Do you use terms like meat appendage? I love it. I love it. I'm using it from now. I'm stealing that from you. Good composers borrow, great composers steal. I'm going to say this is what I got from Gene. Man.
I love it. Yeah, well, I will admit, I guess I have a rather unorthodox approach because because it is self-taught. It's like I don't have just a catalog of proper referencing, agents. So it's
hey man, just like Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Hey, there you
exactly.
go. Absolutely.
Yeah,
man.
That's why the DVDs are so great, because it's just a very organic approach, and both of the DVDs are just full of tidbits. Especially I love the ankle weights concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if you guys if everyone's familiar with that, but tell them about the ankle weights, man.
Well, one thing, back in 1988, I was about a week out of tracking what was going to become my second album, and that was an album from the band Dark Angel, and the album was called Leave Scars, and it had some, pretty jamming double bass on it. And about a week before we were going in to record, I was starting to lose my feet. It was just like, we've been rehearsing these songs for a number of months, and a week before, now I'm having issues being able to play some of this fast double bass. And so I thought, well, I do have a pretty athletic background. I played a lot of baseball growing up, and I was a pretty decent baseball player. And one concept that I took from the sports days was the concept of the batter's donut. Like when you see guys in the on deck circle and they're swinging the bat, you sometimes see they have back in back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, they would have a metal donut on the bat, a 1 pound donut. I had one growing up. You swing the bat a lot with the donut on it. You pop that donut off, your bat is lighter. So I thought, well, why not try some leg weights on yourself, see if that's going to help you at all. And sure enough, it did. You know, it's like you put the leg weights on, you jam the tune with them, you jam your rehearsal with them. And at some point before the super kick-in double bass comes in, you pop those leg weights off, and all of a sudden your feet just fly. So I'm like, well, this is really awesome. Coincidentally, it kind of turned out that the reason I was losing my legs in the first place before we did that session was I had no concept of meter at the time, and all that I was actually doing in rehearsals was playing the song so brutally fast that what I was playing a week before, 2 weeks before, it had just kind of evolved into that past your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. If I had just clipped the tempos back a little bit, I may have never discovered leg weights. You know, it was really me just pushing the tempos. We weren't recording the click tracks back then, so there wasn't any template with which to work from. So it just jammed the songs. Turns out I was going way too fast, but it was a blessing that I was, because then I discovered these leg weights, and now I'll play with them live. You know, I'll put them on and have them on for, like, say, the first 8 or 9 songs of the set, and then when those double bass songs start getting into the set, the really cooking ones, you pop them off for those, and it is really easy to play flying double bass that way.
Man, that's fantastic.
Speaking of the baseball donut, I'm sorry, Bart, but speaking of
Rick, go ahead.
The baseball donut, man, you got here so early to do this show. I should have brought donuts and coffee.
No, man, there you go.
I'm sorry, Bart. Go ahead.
Oh no, everything that I'm hearing from you in this interview is outstanding, because excellent. Your unorthodox, as you said, way of learning, it is groundbreaking. And let's face it, I mean, at one point, I'm sure somebody told, George Lawrence Stone that he was crazy for writing stick control. It was unorthodox. The trap set in and of itself is unorthodox. So you're just kind of expanding the horizons. And I just think it's wonderful, Gene. I mean, my hat's off to you once again. I mean, it's very, very, very well done. And
that's very kind of you.
Yeah, very, very well done, man. Very well.
I want to jump on the compliment train, and I have a student who's a heavy metal devotee, and he's a huge fan. Actually, Gene, you met him via video. His name's Max. And
I love Max.
Yeah,
Max was amazing.
Thank you. He's a great kid, and he actually was the one who turned me on to your music. And I'm not a big heavy metal guy, but when I listened to your playing, I was frozen the first time I heard it. I was like, oh my God! Not only was it like super technically precise, but there was like a grace to your playing, and that's not something I often feel like I hear in that kind of style of drumming. Like do you feel like when you play, are you focused on any kind of technical aspects of you playing, or are you just like pouring it out from your soul? Like what's your mindset when you're playing this stuff?
Well, it's a little from column A and a little from column B on that. There are, like, say, I guess when I'm getting into the technical aspects of things, that's like when, okay, here's that hauling double bass part. Just really kind of concentrate on your feet. Make sure that you're, I explain like double bass speed. It's like when your left hand is coming down doing whatever your left hand is doing, make sure your left kick is coming down with that left hand, right kick, same thing. And you can kind of self-determine if your double basses are up to proper speed. If it just feels comfy, like, yeah, left foot, right hand, left foot, left hand, right foot, right hand. When you're hauling, you're making sure that your kicks are coming down on the proper 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing. So that's kind of the technical aspect. And drums, I mean, like, there is that movie, the heart is a drum machine, and that is your heart, your mind, that's where your machine is working. So that's where your creativity is coming from. So just kind of let that part flow. And if I have parts worked out for a session. Like I've got this entire song worked out in my head. A lot of times I will, like when it comes to sessions, I'll give myself, here's 90% of this song you'll work out in your head beforehand, just so for brevity's sake, while you're tracking, you know, you got 10 songs to track today, work out, you know, 90% of it. So you get the job done quickly, cogently, like that. But allow yourself that 10%, you know, of I'm going to freeform this fill right here. I'm just going to play when it comes to this part. I'm just going to do something. And a lot of times I got to admit, I go a lot simpler, you know, just to get the job done. You know, it's like I'll make it really simple just to, you know, here's your chance that you were giving yourself to go super nuts. But I am the world's laziest drummer. And I'm a legend of lethargy. So sometimes I'll take the super easy route and make the fill really simple just to keep the project moving forward kind of thing. But yeah, there is a definite balance between understanding the technical parts that you need to get, especially these days where you know, pro tooling and gridding have become such an integral part of recording. If you're going to grid my stuff, okay, I will still give you the most, the least amount of gridding that you would need to do. I'm going to try to play those parts as humanly machine-like. So you go to grid these kick drums, and you're like, we got nowhere to go with these. They're pre-gridded by the guy, you know.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's just it. I guess it's, you know, like we got to have integrity. You know, you just can't.
Yep.
Oh, you can fix this later. Go for it. I do agree with the content of pro tooling and that sort of thing. Like if it comes to something like content, you finish this track, you've played this track. However, the guys writing the track have decided to go with, like, say, a different ending or something like that. You did not play that ending, but they're able to construct it from pieces that you already played. They're not like constructing it on a computer, but, you know, say, I understand that completely. And that gets done all the time, you know? So
yeah.
Where, you know, you didn't track it this way, but hey, due to the modern technology, we can do a couple of things here. You know, we want to extend that third verse or whatever it is, you know, like just do that kind of thing. I'm okay with that. That's okay. But what if it ever came to like, I couldn't play any of this, you have to construct it in the studio. I don't like that at all, man.
At all.
I'll give you the best I got, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Gene. I've seen video of Jeremy's students, Max, playing, and he's definitely got the Hoglan gene.
Oh, that's it.
I got to say that.
I'm sorry.
I got to just insert this here because, you know, this kid Max, I think he's 13 now, and he's been working on several of Gene's songs for, you know, over the course of a few years that I've been working with him, and it's the kind of thing where, like, he'll bring in a song and I'll try and transcribe the first 8 bars of what you're playing. It'll take me like, you know, 15 minutes just to get it because it's so dense and complex. And I'll give him those 8 bars and he'll come back the next week and he can play the whole tune.
I bet, yeah.
And it's
absolutely.
like, I think he's got that the Gene Hoglan gene. The Gene gene. Where
the Gene.
It just makes sense to him. And I'm like, wow, man, there are some people like you where it just makes sense and it all, you know, you can, whatever you think you can do. And the rest of us
excellent.
Practice.
Jason Leon said you didn't record to a click early on, but then Strapping Young Lad was very electronic based. How was that transition?
Well, when it came to strapping, let's see here. My first record with strapping was an album called City. And the only songs that we used a click on were the more groove-oriented songs, like all the fast hauling double bass tunes. There wasn't a click to any of it, but my meter was relatively decent by then. So, and that was the first album I ever used a click on, and I was expecting to, okay, we're going to record this entire thing to a click. And then Devin Townsend, the mastermind of it all, he had come to me before we'd recorded. He's like, the only songs we're going to be using a click on are those slower, groovier ones. So I was like, okay, well, that's easy. But I, there are some subtle, slight pushes and pulls in songs like Detox. I can hear myself like fading, as the song's going on. That was another example of like, you have 13 hours to record 13 songs. I recorded that album in one day, and that's the way it goes back then. Like that was very common. You get 1 day to record this entire record, dude. You better show up knowing it. So we had a total of 4 rehearsals total for the preparation of that album. One rehearsal was in early March, another rehearsal was in May, and then we had 2 rehearsals in July. Then we started tracking the album. So we didn't want the material we didn't want to burn out on the material beforehand.
Yeah.
So we didn't have many rehearsals. No,
Keep it fresh.
It was schedule and location based. So
Gene, what was it like to be on the cover of Modern Drummer? How did that feel, and how was that experience? How did that happen?
Well, it was super neato. I got to admit that. It's a dream for us all. And I was like, hey, what took you guys so long? It was very exciting. And I remember that they had gotten in touch. I guess there wasn't a lot of photos of me going around at the time, because they came to me and they said, we got nothing. We want to put you on the cover, but we got nothing. And I was doing so much traveling at the time that, trying to set up like even a photo shoot for some of it. They were like, do you have any photos? So I think this thing here is the cover of Modern Drummer, because I had to supply them with a photo. I was like, you lazy buggers, send a photographer out, I'm doing gigs here, come out, send somebody out. But it was very exciting, of course, totally. And
that's awesome.
Dream come true, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's fantastic.
Beautiful.
I got a question for you, Gene, in regards to, and I know I'm going back to the open-handed thing, and
yeah,
the
sure,
toe thing and everything like that. Do you find that in your playing, I think a lot of times people think of metal as like super aggressive and you beat the crap out of everything, but do you find that you're relaxed when you're playing? I mean, I know there's times when we dig in and you're just giving it all you got, beating them like they owe you money, but do you find there's a certain relaxation to your flow around the kit, I guess?
Absolutely. And I can definitely say the more intense the drum part, the more relaxed I am.
Wow.
Because
awesome.
that's the way I feel. Like I've always equated, drumming to like being a sniper or something. Your snipers, their breathing is very, they're not just out there going, killing everything. They're being very methodical in their approach, and breathing is important. So that's how I kind of feel like as a drummer. I equate myself more to a sniper than some, one-eyed screaming ghoul running out with a gun kind of thing, So
right.
That's it's helpful in that regard. Where I've always felt the more intense the part, the more you need to relax. If you're relaxing from the head on down to your appendages, like you can't be in your head like, oh my God, here comes this part. Oh my God. That's when you got to like calm everything down and just go, I'm going to nail this thing. It is challenging. Absolutely. But I got this. You got this. And like I say, my wife, Laura, she'll joke with me. She's like, cause she knows I will go back and listen to my stuff as my certain elements of my catalog for inspiration. And she always gets a kick out of that. Like, God, does Hoglan go listen to Neil Peart or Tommy Aldridge or something? No, he listens to himself. That it is merely from a, hey, you did this once, you got to do it again here, that kind of thing. Something intense, something crazy. Yeah. You did it once, you could do it again. You're a better drummer now. So, just have that as kind of like just your impetus of, I think I can. You did it once, you'll do it again. That kind of thing. So there you go.
That's cool.
Awesome. Great answer.
Gene, so now every day I'm here at the studio teaching, and Gene rehearses at the same studio, a couple doors down. And so we've been brothers hanging out through
That's
COVID, and Gene has been broadcasting on Twitch.
That's right.
How many days a week are you on Twitch now?
I've lowered it to 4, but there was a time when I was going 7 days a week on it, and then that dropped down to 5 days a week. But now I'm doing a good solid 4. I try to get four streams in there, and they're usually around Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That's been a pretty decent schedule for me. And sometimes they start at 11 a.m. in the morning. Sometimes they start at 4 p.m. But yeah, I would imagine we get, I've told all the Twitch folks about this. When I was bringing this up last week, I would see on the comments, like from my moderators would immediately put on, check Gene out on, Rick's deck program, that kind of thing. And we're always pumping rickstojack.com. We're always pumping deck on there. I'll mention deck, and then there'll be a little thing from my mods on my chat saying, hey, check out deck at, that kind of thing. Like after this, I'll be going directly and starting to stream after this. And the reason I started streaming was just because, like I was telling you, like touring was coming to an end for an indeterminate amount of time. We don't know how long. At first, of course, touring, we're going to have to suspend touring for 3 to 6 months. So I thought, well, I got to do something to keep my chops up, and so just go to the studio and jam every day. And I was speaking to a couple of my friends who are big Twitchers, and they play in big bands, and they also have their own Twitch, channel. And they're like, you should try this, give it a shot. You're you, so you'll probably do pretty well at this. A couple of these guys were like, I'm paying my rent, through this. It's a good thing, it's it can be monetarily helpful. And that part wasn't as important to me, but the keeping my chops up was, because we weren't sure what was happening with touring. And I was like, I could become that Legend of Lethargy drummer and sit on my butt for 6 months and do nothing. I thought, well, that's not a good maneuver. Keep your chops up. And this is just a way to have, like, we call ourselves the Atomic Cult. And this is a good way to get in there. Keep my crust broken. I don't become sedentary. And we have, kind of a fly on the wall to me rehearsing. I take requests. Talk about, building your mental approach towards things. I'll take requests from songs I've never heard in my life before, but all right, give me a shot at that. I'll give it a shot. And, sometimes it comes out pretty decently, and sometimes it's a horrible train wreck, but I have a good time doing it. And we got a very sweet chat forum. We keep the cult really, we try to keep it very uplifting and inclusive. And I'll crab about a song that somebody gives me, like, why do you like this band? Why do you like this song? What kind of nonsense is it? I'll go like that. But we try to keep it pretty sweet. We hand out a lot of virtual hugs on our chat. That kind of thing. We just try to make it a really nice haven for somebody who's like, man, I just want to escape what the world is just beating me down with right now. I just want to come here, just watch this guy flap his gums, tap some drums, and have a good time. I'm just a big ham bone. Put a mic in my face, and I'm a big ham sandwich. So that's how it works. It's just we just try to have a really good time with that Twitch channel. Totally.
It's hours. Think about the work. Imagine preparing for a drum clinic. Gene is doing the equivalent of a drum clinic that goes for 2 or 3 hours. That many days a week.
Yeah.
And it's no one in the room, right? It's just Gene with the mic and looking up at his at a screen. And
it is a full-on unplug your brain, stream of consciousness sort of approach that I've got. I have no idea what the next sentence coming out of my mouth is going to be. And I say that all the time, like, don't take anything I say seriously, man, because I have no idea what I'm talking about half the time. I'm just trying to keep it engaged and lively and that sort of thing. But I do run my Twitch stream very much like one of my clinics. I'm not sure what you're going to learn at a clinic. And I try to do as much talking as I can at clinics to keep myself from playing them drums as much as I can. But of late, my clinics have been kind of reversing, where I play a lot more drums than I do talking, which is probably a good thing. And it was all because of Zorro. A few years ago,
man,
Rick hosted Zorro at another part of this complex that we're in, a drum room across the way there. And he hosted Zorro. And my clinics, I used to always have to play 2 tracks, you know, like I'd have to contact old engineers, like, hey, can I get some drumless tracks from this album, that album, this album? And a lot of times they'd be like, I'll do what I can, but shoot, I don't know where I put those things, you know? And then Zorro came in, plugged in his iPod, played directly to the iPod. His drums are drowning out the drums. You know, he's playing to his Apple, his iTunes, you know, like, and his drums, acoustic live drums, are drowning out the drums from there. And I was like, holy moly, this has opened up a brand new venue, you know, brand new avenue. I don't just have to play my stuff. I could play an LD Miola song from Spotify or something if I like. And, you know, my drums are going to drown out Steve Gadd's recorded drums. So that just opened up a brand new world. So, Rick, thank you for that. That opened up a gigantic world in terms of clinics and doing a live stream. Now, it's very easy now. You know,
Gene, remember when I hosted Daniel Glass and here, our brother Daniel Glass, who's been on the show.
Excellent.
And Gene came in and to the master class Daniel was giving, and they did a jam, and it was like roots rock jazz meets extreme metal, and these 2 jammed, and it was extraordinary. It was the coolest combination.
Cool. That was really fun. Absolutely.
Such a blast.
Daniel Glass is great, man. Good lefty.
Yeah, good lefty.
Hey, Gene, Jason Leon asked, how awesome was it to play in a cartoon band?
I was the greatest ever. Especially since people seem to love their cartoon death metal. I'm all about it.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah.
Josh Posey said your Twitch stream is a great stream and everybody should go check it out.
Oh, that is very kind, Mr. Posey. Thank you very much, brother. And that is very cool.
To find that, you just go on Twitch and search for you.
So. Yeah, I think it is twitch.tv/Gene Hoglan. And if you do it that way, if you just go online to, you know, like your browser and see it on Twitch, you can see it that way. If you want to like engage, because I engage with everybody, you know, if you drop a comment down there, I've constantly got my phone up to my face because that's what I'm reading my comments from. It's like, hey, Bo, how you doing there, brother? I'm all about that. So I believe you might need to download the Twitch app and then get yourself set up on that. In order, if you'd like to comment, absolutely, I'm all about it, man. I love engaging with people and you know, keeps me from playing them drums. You know, the more you talk to me, you know, there's so many times I'm like, I'm going to get right to playing drums right here. And then somebody will say something. I'm like, oh, a squirrel. Hey, let's talk about this for 15 minutes. Kind of thing. So that's how it works.
You know, I have a great story for you guys about Dethklok too. Gene played live with Dethklok here in San Diego at the Midway Battleship, which is now a museum docked at the port here in San Diego. And so Gene played it live, like inside the aircraft carrier, like and the big screen back there with all the cartoons was just insane. But the entrance was the best, man. They flew in a helicopter onto the battleship with them. Now that was a big entrance.
That was pretty
cool.
Pretty fun.
And then what's really exciting now is my sister-in-law, Laura Christine, Gene's wife, played live with Dethklok the last time they played.
Yeah, that was great.
And
look out for such an element, you know.
Oh man,
it was incredible having her come on. Even our bassist who could not be there, Brian Beller, you know, he's our regular guy. He reached out to Brendan, the man in charge, Brendan Small. He reached out with an email saying, my God, when you guys brought Laura on, that was amazing. Boy, she just tightened up, solidified everything for you guys. That was really fun. I'm getting to have my best little buddy jamming with us. That was super cool, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, Laura. So as you guys know, my wife Julia is a drummer, and then her sister Laura is really a heavy metal guitar virtuoso. Her project at San Diego was Warface, but she's played with Gene with Zimmer's Hole.
That's right.
So one day Laura she was going up to Vancouver to record tracks for an album by Meldrum.
That's right.
And Gene was the drummer, and that's how they met. And then eventually Laura's got a boyfriend, and she said, yeah, he's a drummer. I'm like, oh, cool. Who is he? Gene Hoglan. Like, oh, cool. So, the first day, this gives you tells you about Gene's character. The first time I met Gene, he didn't even know me, and we were at an event in LA. I think it was a birthday party.
Something like that.
Yeah, and Gene didn't even know me and didn't know I was a drummer. And I go up to the bar, and Gene buys me a drink.
Get everybody drunk.
Yeah. That's really nice of you, man. Like, wow, this big dude is one cool cat, you know? And, and there's your cat, cool. You jazz guy, Jeremy.
Yeah, the cat's right. The cat's.
Yeah, man. Well, if I'm having a good time, I think everybody should be happy.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
That's awesome. On the on your live stream, right? So you kind of answered the question already, but so do you have things prepared going into it ever, and then it kind of just goes on its own, or do you just not prepare, you just go in and do it?
The only thing that it's not really, nothing is prepared, you know.
Okay.
Like the way the stream starts now, it used to be me just like tapping the record button, and hey everybody, what's going on? Okay, and you know, I'll talk for a bunch of minutes and then get to a song. These days, we do kind of a hot opening. I'll, you know, there'll be a little screen saying, you know, Gene's about to come on here kind of thing. And people are entering the chat room and that sort of thing. And then, you know, I got a little intro song playing. And then we'll pop onto me jamming. So that's how it started. That's how it now starts. And by, you know, sometimes, you know, my mod will ask, do you have a song to, you know, give me a song so I can list it, you know, tell your chat people what song you're playing. And I'm like, most of the times I don't even have a song, you know, I'll be like, hey, you pick one, you know? So one thing I've been attempting to do is, while we have about an 8-minute intro going, because it takes Twitch a little bit to get its notifications out to everybody, so everybody starts entering into the chat room. I'll get on the chat and I'll go through. They come into the chat and me, because I take requests. I'm taking tons of requests. That's kind of how the stream has evolved. I'll just take requests. Keeps me jamming, and I don't have to prepare anything. You know, like there's a list being made for me. It's like, I want to play that song. I'll play that song, that kind of thing. So these days I've been going through the list as the intro's going. I'm off screen still. I'll go through what people are requesting, and I'll be like, I'm going to play that song, you know. And so I'll surprise folks with, I just put that song on the list and now Gene's playing it. What in the world? That kind of thing. I'm trying to evolve to that. But for instance, today, speaking of Meldrum, Michelle Meldrum, our guitarist, one of my best friends for life. We met when I was 16 and she was 15. And today, she's no longer with us. She passed away in 2008. Today's her birthday. So I'll be doing a little birthday tribute to Meldrum, just coming out of the gate. So if anybody, you know, in half an hour or so after we complete this, you know, somewhere around there, I'll be jumping on my Twitch stream. So if you want to catch some of that, come out. We have a really good time. You know, like I say, I'm just a big old ham sandwich, and it's a stream of consciousness, and, you know, hopefully enjoyable thing that we just try to have a good time with.
That's awesome.
Are most of the songs that people request for you to play, is it mostly like a metal thing, or do you ever get somebody, you know, play this Frank Sinatra tune, or is
absolutely.
It all really
it runs the gamut? Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, man, I will play anything, you know. Totally. I believe me, I played enough metal songs in my life, you know, without taking a request from, you know, like Sodom or somebody, or Creator. I'm okay with, like, you know, people know I love Stevie Wonder. God, I got a big old Stevie Wonder cardboard cutout hanging out right next to me on my stream.
Great.
You know, they'll request Stevie Wonder songs or Temptation songs or Frank Sinatra songs, or sometimes they give me my choice. I'm like, I love that. I'm just going to go randomly, just like, just like scroll through these thousands of songs that I can play and just like stop randomly on one. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's a Andre Previn song. Okay, kind of thing. So we have a good time, and it keeps your mental acuity sharp. It's like, okay, well, here's a song I've never heard before, so get to know it. It's like it only improves your chops. It improves your mental state for things. So that's pretty good.
You know what, Gene? You're like a chef. He's like, he could cook every last little thing on that menu.
Yeah.
He makes great. What's the ceviche? He makes great ceviche, right?
So, Gene, what's next for you? What's coming down the road?
Well, let's see. I have a gig with Testament coming up in the next week, and that is going to be a festival show up in Sacramento. It is the Aftershock Festival, and we've played it before. And I understand Metallica is one of the headliners of this one, and it's a 4-day rock festival kind of thing. So I'll be doing that next week. And Testament has an announcement coming up on Thursday, I understand, about this tour that we have coming up. They have an announcement on Thursday, and so that's what's happening there. And what else? Got some Dark Angel stuff to prepare for, and doing some live gigs next year that got to start putting the prep in order for that. I have some Death to All, which for some of you that might be familiar with my old band Death, there's another vocalist whom we've lost, another guitarist, Mr. Chuck Schuldiner. He passed away in 2001, but ex-members of the band, we put together just a fun tribute where we get to go out and play Death music. It's we love Death's music, and Chuck is no longer with us, but we all thought, well, gosh, the man is no longer with us, but why should his vast musical legacy be ignored, or we're not going to let it be forgotten about. So, Steve DiGiorgio, Bobby Coble, myself, we got ourselves a new vocalist, Max Phelps. Let's take this on the road, play Death music for people. We have a night of Chuck, and God, it's amazing seeing like hardened, grizzled, older metal dudes in the front row with tears coming down their face, because this is such a, for lack of better term, it's a beautiful thing, man. These guys, they're like, this is my favorite band. I thought I would never see this band again. Right now, I'm having an emotional moment seeing this band. This is taking me back to when I first heard this band, or when I got to see this band 25, 30 years ago. And now I'm getting to kind of see them again, something I never thought. And then there's also, because Death has a whole lot of fans that are of the younger generation now that obviously never got to see Death. So they get to come out and catch the songs played really well, and it's the next best thing to having, Chuck Schuldiner still with us. So, it's a fun night. It's a nice tribute. There's that. And also I understand that Brendan Small from Dethklok, there is a Dethklok movie in the works. So he is writing the movie and writing the music for it. And so I would imagine somewhere in 2022, I'll probably have a session in the studio of laying down the soundtrack for that. That's going to be super fun and exciting. And then there's that other project I was just mentioning, we were mentioning earlier, that's going to be huge. And that is arguably some of my best work so far. And I'm really excited to be launching that project. I'm a session drummer for a kick-ass project. You guys are already aware of it, but we'll as the time comes, we'll definitely keep Deck in the loop on a lot of that project.
And Laura's on that project on guitar,
as well as a whole lot of other folks. So yeah, man, we're not allowed to say who anybody yet. So even I'm not a part of this project. So there you go.
One of those.
Well, we'd love to have Gene. We'd love to have you back on when that comes out, so you can talk more.
Oh, well, Fantastic, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's gonna be super fun. I'm really excited for that one. And there's gonna be tons of touring for Testament and just all the, hopefully 2022 is gonna be a little bit different than 2020 and 2021. So hopefully there'll be all the touring that we miss, like Rick and the entire family are not used to seeing me around this much.
Loving it.
I'm gone for 8 months out of the year.
Oh, it's so nice having you around, man.
Here,
We're having so much fun. And Gene, I know you also have this recording coming up. I know Dom called you up and
that's right.
And you're on this recording of Come Together.
That's right.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I
know we don't have a lot of time,
but I think so.
So this is a recording of Come Together with featuring what other drummers are on it? I know you've all recorded your segment, and then they're combining the drum parts. So you're going to hear multiple drummers on the one track. Yeah,
we are doing. It's like about an 8-minute, like an all-encompassing arrangement of the Beatles Come Together, and boy, you name it. The list of drummers has grown to like about 150 drummers on this thing. And originally it was about 30 drummers, and I was the complete unknown on all of this. Like you got guys like maybe like Chester Thompson, Steve Gadd, Greg Bissonette, Simon Phillips, Russ Miller, Jim
Ringo, right?
Jim Keltner. Ringo Starr, I understand, is a part of it. And then there's Dennis Chambers, Chris Daddy Dave, Mike Portnoy. And that's not even the big guys,
that's not the B squad. Yeah.
Right. And so it is for the Harry Chapin Foundation called Why Hunger? As we know, Harry Chapin, son of Mr. Jim Chapin. I learned that during this. I love Harry Chapin. I love Jim Chapin, man. He was my buddy. Had no idea. I've hung with Jim Chapin back in the day,
No kidding. Wow.
I had no idea. I love Harry Chapin. I had no idea until this project when Mr. Famularo pointed it out to me anyway. And so it is for Harry Chapin's Why Hunger project, and just trying to bring a spotlight to and bring an emphasis to the concept of world hunger, trying to feed a lot of folks. And it's just it's a really fun arrangement. It's like I say, it's 8 minutes long, and we were all requested, like, just play a little section right here, and then there's a little spot somewhere where do a little drum solo, that kind of. They sent the charts over. I turned them over to Rick. I'm like, what does any of these mean? Instead of figuring out like which part to play it all, Gene. So I've got to show Rick the final, and it is me definitely outside of whatever element I'm known for. It's a polar opposite of that, so it's going to be really good. I believe the video is being released. I got to double check. I just got an email from Dom last week. I believe the video comes out on October 4th. So that'll be pretty cool. And like I say, it's going to feature, I don't even know I know our cut, the cut I've made, because I reached out to Dom. I was like, we put a cut of it together with me playing the entire song. And I sent it into Dom, and he was like, dude, that's above and beyond, we just thought you'd play this whole thing. Now I thought it was really adorable. Dom said, you played that chart like you wrote it.
That's awesome.
There you go.
That's the funniest thing.
There ain't no reading, bro. I had to tell him. I think that's what Don learned. Dom, I don't read. And that's when he got back to me. He's like, wait a minute, this is one take. I'm like, yeah, it's a long song, it's like, there's no cuts on it, I was like, I memorized the whole song, and I tried to play it. I remember it was Greg Bissonette and Russ Miller on the bass tracks. Both guys are playing off each other to a degree. So I'm like, well, how do you do that? well, combine both their parts into one and be an octopus on this thing and that thing over there, and combine it all into one. And that's, I think Dom was like, dude, extra super nice work then. God, you had to memorize this thing, play it in one take, and you're doing two guys' parts? Damn, Hoglan, you weirdo.
No, super exciting.
That is fantastic, Gene. That is great.
The big takeaway that I think a lot of us can look at, a lot of our audience, I know a lot of my students might have a preconceived idea of what a metal guy is like, sure, and what the circuit of metal, what the people, how they are, and the truth is that people are people. Gene is the biggest pussycat you ever met. He's a big teddy bear. He's the big loving family guy. All of the people that I've met who he plays with are all the same way. There's so much sobriety going on. Gene is just this peaceful, Zen, spiritual guy. And it's just, don't judge a book by the cover, people. And so it's just a beautiful thing. When you see an actor, acting out a role in a movie, don't think that that's exactly how they are. And I really think that's the same thing with music. And so Gene's a shining example of integrity. And
well, that's very kind of you.
I'm feeling very, very blessed to have you a brother-in-law and a drum mentor. And can you believe it, guys? We have been doing this for a year, and this is our 50th episode. And
this is awesome.
This is just a beautiful thing. And we just want to thank our audience, all of the people who've been watching this for the year. You're our fuel. You're our inspiration. We greatly appreciate it. We greatly appreciate your comments. Keep up the comments. This is your show. We could take this in any direction. It's live. We don't pre-record. There's no edits. We do our best. We get all these guys up on the screen, and it's just a great example of cooperation. And we're one big community. And we just really love and appreciate all of you for watching it. And we're really, really excited. And Bart, tell us who's coming on next week. Can you do a drum roll in the new Bart Cave?
You know what? I don't have I'm playing on an E-kit and it's not even turned on. So I will play as soon as it fires up. I will. Okay. So
all right.
No sound yet, but
you can air drum it.
He said yeah.
You go.
Yep.
There you go.
There it is.
Next week is none other than Greg Bissonette, man. Greg's going to be on here next week. Man.
Yeah.
The big bad Bissonette. So we're really looking forward to that. So, man, I tell you what, episode 50, Gene Hoglan. Episode 51, Greg Bissonette. This is just awesome. And Gene, you know what? Again, I can't speak for anybody watching, but I will say that, again, what an inspiration you were today during the show and everything. So, man, thanks so much for coming on and being part of it, man. This is a real treat, and this has been fantastic. Thanks.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen.
Great to get to know you, Gene.
Thanks for plugging us on your Twitch, man. That's
all the time, man. Totally, yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it, man.
That's great, man. We appreciate it so much. Very cool.
Anytime, gentlemen. Well, congratulations again, man. Here's another decades upon decades of deck.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks,
we got in a rim shot today.
And a big shout out and thanks to Aquarian Drumheads, to Chris Brady, Mike Bruker, and the whole staff over there. And shout out to Sabian Cymbals.
Hey, Chris is going to be on. Chris
Brady from Aquarian.
Yeah, he's coming on. Yeah. So Brady's going to be on. So it's going to be
Yeah, shout out to Sabian Education Network, to Joe Bergamini and Dom Famulero for all their support and friendship. And the drum community is just growing and growing and growing. And it's just humbling to be part of it. It's just so exciting.
Really.
And we're just grateful to be here.
Thanks,
all right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys next week with Greg Bissonette. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Gene, thank you. Rick, thank you for getting Gene on here. You really, Rick, you didn't tackle him and say, "Come in and do our show." I mean, this is right? Yeah.
Nah.
Excellent.
He was just happy to do it. And you're
Excellent.
welcome back anytime, Gene.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, Greg. Thank you, gentlemen.
We
I
got him
really
up early for this too.
Excellent.
All right.
Bye,
See you guys
guys.
next
We'll
week.
see you
Thanks,
guys
everyone.
Love
next
you guys.
week.
Thanks,
So
everyone.
long, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.